everybody, and welcome to this special edition of Breakthrough TV with your host, Latricia Clarissa Davis. I am excited because this is another special edition of the Next Generation Now Woman. Woo! And if you haven't already watched the very first series, part of our series, you need to stop this, put a pause on it, and go all the way back and watch 1 and 2, because this is going to set you up for this incredible conversation.
We could talk about the things that you look for in a relationship, something that's very important to you. And then we're gonna get a little juicy after this. So Kelly, let's start.
Something I look for is for that person to see me, like not like what you think I'm supposed to be, but just actually be my personality. So I feel like I've gotten that before. I'm like, oh, so you thought this was something else? So I'm like, no. And just I have this like, I think we all kind of have, maybe stereotypes or like something you might think about a person when you see them. And I feel like sometimes for me, I'm like, I can't, whatever this is that you see is a good chance that I can't be whatever that image is. I've gotten like throughout my life, like people have, and this is just people in general, but like see a person and like they said things about me. I'm like, that don't like match with nothing about me. Like, I don't even know where you're getting this from. Like, it's not from my action. Like, you looked and then you said this must be you. So, but like just being able to see me and I think because you're not for everybody, for somebody though, for some people. But I think that's something I look for. Like you just being able to actually see.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Right. With me being a single mother, I look for a man that can wish well with my children. And when you're dating, you can't really have men meet your children. So it's kind of like weird because like you have to date them to see if they're qualified to even date your children. And so I just look for, it's just certain things that we were talking about as far as our deal breakers that if you are doing those things, you're not ever meeting my children. So it's just like, I look for those qualities so that, I can feel like they can wish well with them and that my children are safe. And they don't feel like they're being replaced, but only he's an addition to our family and not someone that's gonna push them to the side. So I think that's okay for me.
I guess what I look for in a relationship is just a genuine friendship. I want us to be able to be adventurous together, try new things together, always laugh, show love, go to church, be able to celebrate, do all those things as friends would. Because I feel like that friendship is so important. That's the foundation of the relationship. We have our ups and downs in a relationship. You need that friendship to fall back on. So like, okay, let me remember the fun times that we've had, or whatever it is that you guys share with each other. It's so important to just be friends first. Friends always need a relationship. So
I think I would look for, and what I love to look for is growth in a relationship. So looking at from our first date to celebrating, first year anniversary, looking at how I was so nervous with like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna wear? And now it's like, okay, let me just throw this on because you look at that growth. Seeing where your future would hold to what's gonna happen in the future. What are you guys expecting together? Building that future together, having those conversations of where you are going to go. So, and then just reminiscing about the times that you were going through and seeing how, okay, that little petty argument didn't even matter 2 years ago because we're growing to a certain point. So I would definitely say that would be mine.
Wow, I love it.
I want to piggyback off of what Taylor was saying as far as like building future, because I feel like that's important to me as well. Like seeing like how you guys' life will align together and your purposes together, because I feel like 90% of our life it has to do with purpose, because God put us here for a reason. So I feel like I think it's super dope when your mate in life can align with yours, and you guys, even if you're doing two different things, your purpose balance to each other. So like your careers might be different, but your purpose is kind of intertwined with each other, and it helps you guys like grow. I think that's dope. And even when you were saying about just family, like that's really important to me as well, because like I have a really big family, and we are really like energetic, and everybody's a comedian in my entire family. So just like I'm that type of person, like I want you to be able like to dive on in there. I don't have to keep saying you okay.
Right.
I need somebody that's like open with like and fun like me. I don't think you have to be a goofball, but just be able to just be able to talk and interact with everybody to make them feel like okay, he wants to be a part of the family.
I love that. So what's interesting is that I know some of our viewers probably were thinking, oh, their list is gonna be like, oh, he's gotta be cute, he's gotta have money, he's gotta have good credit. No, we're talking about foundational stuff. So that's so beautiful that you have taken the time to really think about what you desire and not have that somebody else's wishes pushed upon you, especially in relationships. There's so much pressure. I counsel so many women, I coach so many women around relationship. And it's interesting because when we were younger, like as a young teenager growing up, I remember I'm a preacher kid, all day, my grandparents, pastors, all of that. And they always talk about intimacy and they were like, just don't do it. Back then it was like, you can't do it, don't you do it. You save it until you're married. Why? Like, tell me what that means. Yeah. But they didn't have the conversation around why it was important, the value of keeping your purity and why you didn't have to compromise in order to have a relationship. So let's talk about intimacy in relationships, and not necessarily, you don't have to you can go as low as you want to, you go as high as you want to. I'm all in no matter what. But I really want to talk about, do women still feel the pressure, right? The pressure to be in a relationship. Like I have girlfriends who are in their 40s, they have taken the career pathway, they wanted to focus on career, decided not to have children, didn't get married, and is loving life. They're happy with doing that. Then I have other women who got married early, had their children are adults, and now they're like, I want to travel and see the world. So people see life very differently. When intimacy is involved in a relationship to the level in which you want to be intimate, there are some people who have taken vows of celibacy, which is beautiful if that's what they choose for. But there are people who say that this is the relationship that I'm in. We are exclusive and I'm okay with that. So who is setting the terms up in terms of intimacy in relationships for your generation, for women? And tell them why do you feel that way?
For me, I'm actually I am celibate right now, and I chose that for myself. I really do. I don't think it's a pressure from anybody, but I desire to be married again. I was married once before, and I always been the girl that desired to have a family. So and I can't say that nobody put that pressure on me. I really can't. It's just a desire for me. So once I made that decision, and I'm just like, I don't really want to just date to date, because I feel like there's a time where you should date to date because that's how you learn yourself. But then you get to another stage in dating where you're just like, okay, now I don't want to date to date. I already know who I am. Now I want to date for a purpose. And so that's really what I'm at now in that stage. And I just feel like holding off until I get what I truly desire will help keep my emotions in mind here to make the proper decisions, and that it's not based off of lust. Because a lot of times I feel like sex can drive you to extend relationships longer than what you should, based off of the chemistry and the sex appeal. Lust can be very devious and make you think that there is love when it's just lust. And so that's why I made that decision for myself. But I feel like once you get to your 30s, hopefully you're talking to a guy that, even if he's not ready to settle down, hopefully he's mature enough to have that conversation with you, and don't be a kiddish about it. So what I mean by that is if he doesn't believe in that, then you guys just break it off. There's no harm foul. But it's worse when you have to run into someone who either they're gonna lie about it and be like, yeah, just to, keep things going, and his heart really doesn't want to do it. Versus somebody who just say, yeah, that's not going to be something I can do, and be honest, but okay, cool, thank you, because now I'm going to move on with my life. So, like, hopefully, I just pray for any woman who made that decision. She do run upon a man that can have a proper conversation and be mature about it. So, it make her easier, the transition easy into the
I feel like a similar way, like Dr. was also similar, and you said who makes the decision? My immediate thought was me. But it's a decision that I've made, and also like just made with God. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just have my focus here, because I haven't like been in a serious relationship. I'm like, I don't want to be talking and dating and also having sex. Just, I feel like I've had a lot of situations where that's what they want, and that's like, they're not necessarily interested in, okay, seeing me, knowing me. So I'm like, okay, let me also see the role that I'm playing in that one. But that's what I want there to be purpose into us dating, and it's for God, but it's also for me, and it's for a couple of reasons. But I think it's important, and so again, for like dating someone who can have that conversation, like Adele, but and just being real about it. Because I'm like one of those people. I'm like, you saying that you don't want something won't hurt my feelings, like, because if you lie about it, now you're messing with my time. So I'm like,
our emotions, because women get invested in our emotions.
That too. I feel men, women. I feel like all of us would be invested in our emotions, might show it differently, or men might have been taught to not be able to show their emotions, but they still be in there.
I don't know about men. I don't know about women. I don't know about men,
but yeah, I think that's how it is.
That's good.
I would say what you said as well. It's nobody else's decision on what you decide to do with anything happening with you. It's not, the person that you're in a relationship with. It's not the person that you plan on dating. It's really what you decide that you would want to do. And I would definitely say that having that conversation with God to actually fully understand, what am I doing right now? Like, is this something that should happen? Is it something that should wait? Is it something that maybe is like, no, don't do it because I'm showing you a sign right now that later on in the future. So definitely having those conversations with God and reflecting and, really having those moments to fully understand, like, what am I actually doing? I think honestly, in our generation right now, it may seem like a lot of pressure because of things that you see and hear. Is like, it's kind of an expectation of, this is how you should be at this age. If you're not doing this, then I don't know what's wrong with you. And you shouldn't have anybody feel like I'm pressuring you into doing something. And that should also be the same thing for your partner. Whoever you're in a relationship with, I'm not gonna force you to do anything that you don't wanna do. I wanna have those conversations with you so we are both on the same accord, that we don't come up 5 years later down the line and all of a sudden it just completely changed. Or if there is something that changes, because I do know there are women who decide to become celibate before they get married, and it's maybe like during their engagement time, or it may be like, all right, we're in year one and I had this prayer with God and things change, and your partner should understand that. And if they can't, the deal breaker.
I had that experience with my first husband. We were intimate, and then I had this revelation with God, and I went to him and was like, listen, I have to talk to you. I don't want to be intimate anymore, and I totally get it if you don't understand that, because it's just something that I'm growing towards with God, and I feel like if I keep doing it, I'm going to, he's not gonna be happy with me. And at first, he was just like, yeah, I can't do that. And I'm like, okay, sweet. So now we know we're just friends, blah. Maybe about an hour later, mind you, we live together. So about an hour later, he's like, and this is, mind you, we're college students. So he's like, you want me to make you some noodles? I'm like, change your mind. So I'm like, no, I'm not my boyfriend anymore. So I feel to make my own noodles. He's like, no, I don't make your noodles. I'm like, okay. So then he's like, come out the kitchen. He's like, listen, like, I really can't see my life without you. So I guess we celebrate, and I guess like we can just start planning for like when we think we're gonna get married and set a date. And that's actually how that happened. It went from us being intimate to us being celibate together, and we were celibate for like a year before we got married. So that does happen. Yeah.
Well, like you said, it only took 1 hour for him to come around. I would say intimacy in all levels, like we talked about loyalty, communication, all those things. So it's better to just be honest and do what you feel is comfortable. Society does pressure people to be intimate, or even for women to get married by a certain age, to have children by a certain age, but they don't pressure that on the men who can have children at whatever age they want. So it's always a pressure of women to hit certain milestones in life. I'm not sure why that is, but the pressure is still, even on our generation and probably the next generation, to fulfill what they think is best for us. And we are getting to that point of our generation where we know, we want to take a little more time to figure things out, to figure ourselves out, life, how we want life to look today, tomorrow, next year. We're creating vision boards of what we want life to be. And we do not feel forced to do anything now. That's why I love the generation. We're not allowing any pressures to come on us and create that uncomfortability in relationships, in the workplace, and things where we know something is not right. So just,
Yeah, I feel like too, like, I don't know, like, when you were saying about like we taking our time a lot and not being pressured by, society thinks and everything. But I feel like for me, like, I'm not being pressured. I don't feel like I'm being pressured or whatever, but I feel like you were saying, I see the same thing, like they have this idea of what you're supposed to do, like you're supposed to have yourself together before you do this and that. But for me, I'm messy. I don't feel like I have to, I'm gonna be honest, I don't feel like I have to have it all together. And I don't feel like I have to have all my ducks in a row to get married. I feel like some things you should experience with your mate. I feel like some things it's okay to grow with your mate. I feel like some things, when you're with your mate, because that's what happened with, my marriage didn't work because we didn't have it all together. My marriage didn't work because we didn't have the proper communication skills because we started dating at 19 and got married at 24. We didn't have the proper communication skills on how to speak to each other properly. That's why my marriage didn't work. It had nothing to do about not being put together. Like I said, we're just eating noodles. We're not together. So a lot of times, and our grandparents who was married for 60 years, 70 years, they did not have together. A lot of them got married super young and grew together into it. So I feel like do what you think is best for you. You do not have to have it all together to get married. Or if you feel like you do, then do that. But stop listening to what people say. Do what you think is best for you. Because honey, whoever's gonna get me, I'm not gonna be completely all together. Like, I'm gonna be honest. There's no way, to me, I don't think nobody is all together. Even when they think they're all together, they're not all together. That's just my personal opinion. I feel like we get to a point where where we're not confused about what we want to do and things like that, but being completely all together, no. I feel like if we were all completely all together, there's no reason to have faith in God. There's no reason to go to God if you have it all together. You will exit him completely out. So you have to be able to still be vulnerable for God to still use you. And so if you're always polished, how can he use you? How can he transform you if you got it all together?
Yeah.
So.
Well, what's interesting about even that, having it all together, there is a requirement society puts out. There's a requirement that your family will put on you and say, this is what we expect of you. But having it all together is really having an understanding of who you are. Like, that's what is so important in success in relationships. And I'm so glad to hear you all say that guess what, I get to define and do it on my terms. Because if you don't have that kind of power over yourself, you're gonna find yourself in cycles and on a roller coaster, going nowhere, right? And so I love to hear that power, and hopefully you have encouraged some of your sisters too will say, wow, I didn't even know I could take that power back. The power in being able to be in a relationship and say, you know what, things have changed. I want to give my heart to God and I want to be celibate and I want us to walk this journey out together. And if that means me losing you and choosing God, then I'm going to okay with that, right? So setting up those standards for what works for you is really, really beautiful. And I think that's the key here. I was going to share, it's so interesting. I was thinking about even my single journey. I was single again. So I was thinking, after being married, I found myself single again and wanted to know what that looked like. So dating as an adult was very different than, I'm like, what is happening out in this world? Like, who changed all the rules? Like everything changed. It was, now there's this 90-day rule. I'm like, okay, well, what does 90-day rule mean? Like, how does that work? And, I was trying to check off all the boxes and trying to figure out what all that meant. I'm like, hold on, pause. Maybe I just need to date me. And I need to figure out what I really, really like and love about myself so that I can invite that type of person into my life. And so when I was able to meet my soulmate, my key, my name, yes. I was on my way to destiny. I was doing my own thing and I was doing it God's way. And I had taken saying, you know what? I can date because I wanted to date to figure it out. I went through a process of healing first. Because that's key. When you go through something tragic, you have to heal. So you go to the root of that pain and you heal. And then you say, okay, now I'm ready. I've discovered who I am through this healing process. And now this is the expectations that I now have. And then meeting someone along the way to say, you know what, this is where I'm at. And if you want to meet me on this road, then you have to respect my decision to honor God in my life and everything that I do. Now, here's what's funny about my personal journey is that when I was dating and I would lead with that conversation, they'd be like, for real? But your kids is old. And now you're gonna start over? Like, why would you even? But it was, well, if you got a problem with that, then that's okay, because you know what? You're not the one anyway. So you can just keep it moving, right? And keep it going. So having that conversation with yourself first, but then being able to communicate that. So let's shift it up a little bit. Because I love, unless there's something else y'all want to add to that, because our conversation is so good. We can spend like hours talking about it. And so if y'all want us to keep having that conversation, definitely put that in the comments and say, oh, can y'all talk about this next? Because I told you, we talk about everything from the bedroom to the boardroom because there is a journey and breakthrough is continual. So all of our segments have been coming up. We've been talking about God. And so God is so important to who we are as women and to who we are as a people. We must have a foundation in faith. And so tell us about your personal journey. What does it mean to be a woman of faith in this now time? And why is it so important to you? No, one of y'all gonna start first.
Okay, tell
us gonna start.
I'll go. So I will definitely say that your journey is work. You're gonna work. It's not just you pray to God and it's like boom, that's it. It's not like you just go to church, boom, that's it. It's not like you get on a ministry, boom, that's it. There is work that you would have to do to it. As far as with my faith, I can say my faith has been tested. I have been like, nope, I'm not listening to this. Like, God, I don't know what you did. I'm not with this right now. And in life, stuff like that happens. You get tested, you get tried, you get to the point where it's like, nah, this is really not it. I had a horrible year in 2015. And I was like, you know what? I ain't going to church. I'm not praying. I'm not, not dealing with that. And so,
that's all right. Yeah.
I got my lashes on.
You got it on, girl. Yes. That's real though.
Yeah, it is. And I would say, for months, I was like, I'm not going to church. Because then you don't have those conversations of, where you been? What's going on? And I've been praying for you. And it's like, I don't want to hear that.
Right.
It's like sometimes you do want to have those moments of like, nah, it ain't it right here. This ain't it. But definitely I would say over the past now 6 years, going through that journey and, definitely having those moments of breakthrough, having those moments to really deep down and reflect and be like, all right, let me actually have this conversation with God.
Yeah.
Let me understand what my faith is. Let me understand, why do I trust you? Because I know that although that situation, everything was going on, you still got me through it.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably the most important thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, look at you.
We all crying up here, these real tears. I'm like, hey, with y'all, we don't care, y'all watching.
Right. No, but that's so true, because you do have those moments, and it's like, really, God, like, we gonna do this? And I've been faithful, and everything just falls apart. The stuff that you didn't expect to happen now challenges your faith. So that's real. Thank you for sharing that. Who's next?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
So I can hold your hand.
Right. That's what we do. Life is better with sisters. I'm telling you.
But when you said 2015, I'm like, I wonder if that was around the time that I kind of stepped away. I was like, okay, I believe in God, but I was just like, Jesus, I don't know about that. And it was tied into kind of like racism and just how Christianity even came to us. I felt like as a Black community, in my mind, I'm like, no one's talking about like, okay, we willingly accept this, and like, and I've seen God work, and I just see, it seems like because just to be blunt, because white people gave it to us, and I really like this one, let me like this religion, and so I didn't see it like, I don't know, I just had this like, okay, God, I feel like I feel you, but I just don't know about that part, like this Christianity part, and Jesus is the center of that. But like, God showed up, and so now I'm just going into the journey, but but it was like this time after time, like, and it was honestly enjoying the church. But like God would show up in these, like, I'm an analytical person, and I would say there's even like a skepticism to me. Like I try to like, okay, how could a person have done this? Like I was trying to think of all the ways, like
Everything not to believe. Right?
And like it would be like, this is statistically like improbable. Like I'm just like, but like for this to have been able to happen from a person, like God, like it's time after time again, from the simplest things of like, I was at a point where all I really wanted was a hug, and like I had put my, like the way I like the boundaries I set up, I put myself in a position I felt like to just not be able to easily get that from someone, and like.
Yeah.
But it was, it was something simple like that, like God gave it to me. And it was also like from a improbable thing. I'm like, this has never even happened. Like how things had to line up for it to happen. I'm like, nothing has ever happened like this before. So I would say it's being a now woman or a now woman of faith is like trusting in God. It's having that trust. And even like when you have those moments of like, you start trusting yourself more, because like I've been in a position where like I felt like sometimes the only person I could trust was me. Like other people weren't dependable. That I had went through so many traumatic things by myself. It was just like, okay, well I have to make a way for it to happen. And like time after time again, like God, like when, or I couldn't think of a way. I'm like, okay, I tried all the ways that I could think of, and like God will always be there, like just in these, just like amazing, like I mean miracles, really, like just, and I think it's just knowing like God is there for you, God loves you. Again, like it was, I just didn't realize how much, especially with that situation, was when I wanted to hug him and wait, because I was crying hard. I'm like,
I just want to hug.
I'm like, I want it. Also the feeling of safety too. I'm like, God, I'm like, simple though. Like it's not something on your radar, really. And like, just for God to do that, I sobbed after that. And it's funny because when that happened, like I remember as it was all lining up, I'm like, this is real inconvenient. It really like, I'm like when I was seeing it happen, like so this is what we doing. And then once it actually like happened, I was like, wait, I like cried too. But even in that, like sometimes is not what God has for you isn't gonna be what you want it to look like. Like, and sometimes you can miss what God has set up for you. Like, I could have missed that because you like, this is not, and we had a word on one service about this though, but because it's not what you want it to look like, you might miss what's actually happening in the moment because you're like, maybe how you're guarding yourself or the standards you might have set for yourself that aren't, I would say, God confirmed. Like, you know, this is just your own little special, this is what I want, this is how I want the world to be. It's like how you spoke about control. Like, we try to, have control. But it's like letting go of that control is being open to what God has for you. It's praying, it's trusting. I don't know if we spoke about this before, but like having God as your refuge and knowing what that feels like, knowing that when maybe you can't find another safe space, that God is your safe space. Like, is getting to know God, is reading the word, is the revelation that comes from that. Like, there's so many different parts to it, but I think it's being open to that. And I don't know that book, but I just remember, this is probably 2017, maybe 2018, I don't know if I'm at. But I remember I got to a point where I had like accepted God so much, and then I just kind of became detached, and I was just kind of like, listen, God, I don't feel none of this, and like I didn't know what to do, but I'm like, okay, but you know what, God, I'm gonna leave like, and it was this visualization, I'm gonna leave like this sliver of space in the door, like so you could get through, and like to know that I was at that space, like where I am now, like, and sometimes it's all you can do is just, I can't leave this room for you. I'm not gonna close the door all the way. I'm gonna leave that room for you to come in. And so sometimes it's that too.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Wow, that's cool.
I think being
There you go. Hold the lashes.
I think being a generational element of faith means making your own decisions, because I can relate to both of them in a way, because mine wasn't really giving up on Jesus, but mine was giving up on religion. So I don't have a religion, and I think the pressure when you're Black to be Christian, if you don't say you're a Christian, people are like, oh! And me saying I'm not a Christian doesn't mean that I don't believe in God or Jesus Christ. I believe in both, and I believe in His promises. I believe in His sacrifices. I believe in His resurrection. I believe in His word. I believe daily. And I honor Him daily. It has nothing to do, religion has nothing to do with my relationship with Him. And so, also when I made a decision not to celebrate Christmas, not to celebrate Easter, everybody's like, oh, and they think like, oh, now you're saying that you don't believe in God. Absolutely not. I don't want to be in this box of Christians or Witness, anything, Muslim. I don't have nothing against any of those religions, but I don't feel like I have to pick a religion to have a relationship with Jesus Christ or with the Spirit of God. And so I feel like when you get to a certain point in life and you're not afraid to speak your truth, like you guys spoke your truth when you're just like, I'm just not feeling God right now. Like, I think that's really powerful, because I feel like we all have certain things that we battle, and my thing would be that, and so I always like to explain to people when they have that thought, like they're feeling devastated that I don't say I'm a Christian anymore. I like to have that conversation so they'll know what I mean when I say I'm not a Christian anymore. And just because I grew up one way doesn't mean I have to agree with that in my adult life, because I feel like when you have a relationship with God, you're supposed to have it for your own. I don't feel like you're supposed to just follow something just because somebody told you to follow it. You have to have an understanding of why you're doing it for yourself. Because why are you doing it if you don't have that understanding? And so I just feel like being a generational woman of faith is really making your own decision and having your own individual relationship with God, so that when you do have those moments when you're upset, He understands. Nobody else has to understand that you're not feeling God right now, because He made you. So He knows that you are in that vulnerable space, and He won't hold that against you. And I'm just so proud of you guys that you guys were even brave enough to say that, because so many people put us in this box that if we say something real and raw, like I said, I'm messy and I own my mess, and I'm not afraid to say that. I'm gonna be 33 this year, and I feel like it's beauty in not being polished. And I feel like when you're able to be at your breaking point, then that's when you get a breakthrough. You cannot get a breakthrough if you're not at a breaking point. And so I feel like that's beautiful that you guys shared that, and I'm really proud of you both.
Go ahead and tell us about the
I mean, I wanted to add
breakthrough.
on to what you were saying too, though, about not only does he know you when you're at that point, but he knew you were going to be there. So, like, we talk about it all, like, God's not surprised that you're there either. So that means that there's a point where you can break through. Like, this is not your stopping point, it's a breaking point to get your breakthrough.
I would say with the next generation that I want to level it was like relearning God. In the relationship that you want with Him, you can truly define. It goes outside of how we grew up in church, what we liked and disliked as a child, you know, who our parents and our grandparents told us God is. Because at the end of the day, it's us and God, you know, in those tough moments, behind those closed doors, in the car ride, you know, at any moment you can speak with God. And that's when you are where you should be at your most vulnerable. So it is outside of religion, it's outside of what people are telling you to define it as. It's that genuine cry out to God during good and bad times, that prayer, that reading, and what you want it to be. You could just be like, God, look, I'm tired. And that's it. You know, just release that up to God because He is supposed to take all of our burdens. And we always feel like He won't give us more than we can bear. But there are also moments where we do feel like He did. And I would say during my faith, I think that relearning started in college. So you guys are saying 2015, 2017. I'm like reflecting on these moments. Those were some tough years going into college because now it's us removing ourselves out of our households, under our parents' roof, and being alone. And that means being alone with God, allowing God to see our faults. And it's taking that covering off. It's weird because it's like now we feel vulnerable, like, okay, we're really being seen for who we are while we're by ourselves. We cannot say, oh, Mom, can you help us with this? Oh, Dad, can you help us with this? It's like, God, we know you see us, you know, please forgive us. And I would say I've gone through a lot during my journey of relearning. It's like life felt like it was getting tougher. I would say losing a lot of family members that I looked up to, a lot of relationships that I felt were genuine, whether it was friendships, you know, coworkers and people like that. I've had moments where I truly felt alone and I had to turn to God. Or I felt like I tried to run from God in certain moments where I'm like, oh, I know God is gonna be disappointed. Let me just kind of avoid, you know, being a certain atmosphere. And God would put me in moments where all I had was Him. So He would remove, you know, whether it was a job, finances, vehicle, whatever it was, He had the power to remove it. And that's when you learn, okay, God, it's really all in your hands. So being put in those places where it's like, literally, nothing physically around you, just like you and God, okay, I have to give it all to you. And when you do that, you're like, okay, I'm thinking everything's gonna turn back around, and it doesn't. Because I didn't learn what I was supposed to in certain moments, so it took me longer because I was stubborn. I felt like I could control education aspects, certain relationships. I felt like I could control things with family, those relationships, and work or whatever it was that was going on throughout those years. I felt like I could control in the best way. Not better than God, but I felt like I have a good handle on life right now. Like I can do, you know, certain things and bigger things. I'll say, God, like God gave me the house, but I could handle an apartment kind of thing. And I was just like, nope, it's all me, taking more away. So I had to really just sit down in moments where I just felt angry. I'm like, God, are you even listening to me? Like the things I'm asking for, you're removing more and more. And I would just say, you know what, God, it's yours, but I'm done. And I got to a point of that in my level of faith, and then I had to relearn. I had to join a new church to see that be surrounded by more positive people. And it was showing me that I wasn't in the right environments all the time. And God had to remove me from some things to show me my value, to show me to love myself, to love the people who are supportive in my life, and just continue to have that level of faith. So to me, faith is peace. Faith is comfort. Faith is knowing that no matter what goes on, God has me. So if things start to shift and shake, I know that there's better. And you have to go through a journey to realize that. That's not something that I automatically learned through having family and friends around. I had to go through some hard times to realize, okay, God always has my best interest. And when I was able to release that control, immediately God started blessing my life with an amazing job, being able to come out of school with my master's with no debt in my master's degrees. Something that I feared that I would go through. Getting better credit, being able to take care of myself financially, all of these things I was able to cover because I left control at the door. So now just going through life, even when things are continuing to go up, I don't forget the lessons that I've learned, that God had to put me in my place basically to say, you know, I have the power, but it's just a relief at the same time. Faith is a relief to know I don't have to carry it on my back. And no one else does. You know, everything is given up to God. And it's also given me freedom to now teach this to youth and to adults. You can build your relationship with God however you want. You can hear God in any realm, any language, that it's yours to determine, it's not anyone else's. So if people are there to judge, they probably shouldn't be in your spiritual life because it's you. And we shouldn't judge each other for whatever place we are in our spiritual journey, because everyone is, you know, everyone's life looks different.
I love it. We could talk about this all day. And I'm so grateful for the maturity in this panel, because you're all talking about having your own personal relationship with God, getting to a place where you get to the breaking point, having to leave that slither open to let him allow him to come into that door, right? Saying, you know what, God, I'm not feeling none of this, and you can have it, but if you decide to do something different, I'm still all in, right? Trusting him and saying, you know what, I'm gonna release control to you, but then saying, you know what, it's all about my relationship with God. And that's what it looks like to be a next generation now walking in faith. And so I pray that all of you are taking out some good stuff from this. Go back and listen to it over and over again, because I believe that they're gonna help you get free. But I think they're gonna raise some awareness around why faith is so important. And it's having that individual journey, that walk. You have to walk some things out in your life. You have to surrender some things out, you know, in your life. God, I don't get it and I don't understand, but you know what? I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna know that I'm in your hands. I know that you love me. And you know, the burdens that I feel, I'm gonna give them back to you because they're too heavy. So that means I'm not supposed to be carrying them. So here you go. And let's figure out what else is gonna happen, but trusting God in that process. Well, you heard it from all of them. Will you say yes to the newest version of yourself? Will you allow God to come into your life and for him to transform you from the inside out? You heard it here. You don't have to have it all together. You don't have to be fully polished. And the truth is, he will take that mess and turn it into a message and be able to send it out into the world, to be able to encourage and empower someone else, just like we have done. I honor you all. Thank you so much for being with us, for sharing in these beautiful conversations, for opening up your heart and being very transparent. And the tears are real. The laughter is real. The love is real. And so for all of you who are looking forward to hearing more, don't worry. There's always going to be more, because breakthrough is continual. We love you, and until next time, go out and be the now woman, because God is calling you to greater. We love you. Bye. Bye.